We are back, the most talked about podcast in the world. Talked about, but apparently nobody is watching because our numbers are pretty sad. Our numbers are pretty sad, but we're still here. We're still championing on. We're still bringing you coverage of the world of boxing with a little bit of humor mixed in. This is Raul Marquez is Punchy with your host, Lupe Contreras. Again, if you're out there watching, if you're among the handful of people that have stuck with us along the way, episode number 8, episode ocho. This one is going to be the one that's going to take us over that cusp, that brink, that
Yes.
threshold that's going to make us go viral and make us the new sensation in internet podcasting. You can hear me in the background. Let me welcome in the star of the program, the guy who, frankly, I'm starting to question if I didn't attach my cart to the wrong horse because I thought he had a little bit more star power than he did. The star of the show, 1992 U.S. Olympian, former IBF Super Welterweight World Champion, former Showtime broadcaster, and current fledgling, struggling podcaster, Raul El Diamante Marquez. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Had a great weekend, by the way. It was Father's Day weekend and
I
got to
know nothing
spend
about
it
that.
with,
I have no
yeah,
kids.
I know. But, you have your dogs. But I got to spend
I
it
do
with
have
my
my dogs.
wife, my little ones, some of my older kids. Some of the older kids had to work, but I was there with my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law. It was fun. A lot of eating, a lot of talking. It was fun, man. I really enjoyed it.
Any cool gifts? Did you get anything nice? Any? I saw. You know what was really cool? I saw those letters that your kids wrote to you.
Oh, you
Uh,
did?
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not the best spellers in the world, but you're not the best speller either. But
Right.
but the sentiment behind the letters was really really good.
Lupita, I mean, come on, they're little, bro. Come on, what do you expect? They're not
Okay,
spelling
what
bee
what?
champions yet. They're Liam is a baseball champion. Hey, Liam is a baseball champion, and
I hate to
Alina's a
say this,
soccer
they're not
champion.
even going to be in the top 10 on the spelling bee. Let's forget
Oh,
about
so
the
you,
spelling at
hey,
this point.
you're telling me you could write that good when you were in second grade? Come on, bro.
I don't recall, no, but
You
they
don't even
didn't
know
they
how to
didn't
write
they didn't
yet.
they didn't give us those types of assignments when I was in school. They were basically like, just sit down, shut up, don't pee in your pants, and let's keep going. It's time for lunch.
Uh,
Go outside, come back inside. That's the kind of school I went to. I don't know what kind of school you went to, but it was
hey, we
HISD
don't want to go. Hey,
public school.
we don't want to go there, Lupina, because I did tell you the story when I went to a magnet school. I went to magnet school programs when I
I
was in
wasn't gifted.
elementary.
I wasn't gifted and talented
Yeah.
too. I was in the Vanguard program. Were you in the
Oh,
Vanguard
Vanguard,
program?
yes. Hey,
Yes. Yes.
I respect that, bro. Vanguard,
I
magnet, all that is all it all ties in, bro. That's
I
what we're
barely
together.
I barely squeaked in. I barely squeaked in, but I got in on the magnet program. Well, well,
One more thing. One more thing. I just want to say, persistent, and we got to be persistent on our show. We got.
we
I
do have to be
saw. I did
persistent.
have the time. Have you ever seen it? I recommend it. Have you watched the McDonald's documentary of how the guy made it? And his main thing is persistent, being persistent. The guy that came up with McDonald's. Look. Have you seen
Well,
it
if
before?
you saw, I have seen the movie. So the
Yeah.
guy who
Okay.
came up with McDonald's
Yeah. What's his name? I'm having
had it stolen by the
had
Ray
his
Crocker.
Ray
Yeah,
Kroc.
he
Yes.
stole the idea with the people who came from McDonald's. So,
I loved it,
so
man.
it's
It really caught my attention. My wife, sat me down and watched it because it takes a lot for me to get that, sit there and for a couple of hours and pay attention. And that show really caught my attention. I really liked it. And
yeah, you have the attention span of a toddler on Red Bull,
there you
but
go.
yeah, no,
Persistence.
so it's steal the idea from somebody else and then be persistent and take it to a next level.
Persistence.
That's
Yes.
the motto of today.
There you
Well,
go.
you know what? I had to be very persistent getting home from. I went to. I
Oh my
disappeared
God. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Northern California. I was out there with G Squad. They had the show. Gabe Flores Jr. had a nice performance at the Chicken Ranch Casino. On the way there, 2.5 hour delay, and I had somebody waiting for me to pick
Man.
me up. So they had to wait there for 2.5 hours. The show went great. The casino's fantastic. It's a casino in the middle of nowhere, but
Yeah.
it's really nice. The rooms are modern. There's plenty of hills. I was running around the hills. I went running, took my shoes, went running 2 days in a row. There are signs everywhere that say beware of the rattlesnakes. A little suggestion to the casino: you might want to put those a little bit closer to the casino and maybe make them a little bit bigger. Because if I had seen those signs, I probably wouldn't have gone out and started running like I did. But anyway, so Friday the 13th, I'm coming home. Everything goes great. We get to the airport. We get to the airport in plenty of time. It's about 2 hours away from the casino in Sacramento. Um, We're flying back home. Everything's looking great. I'm watching a documentary on Netflix as well. And all of a sudden the plane starts going down like it's landing. And we're nowhere near Houston. We're
Right.
barely we're barely we're barely in Texas somewhere.
Were you scared?
And I wasn't scared, but I was concerned. I was like, why are we going down so quickly? Like it shouldn't be happening at this point. So we're
Right.
we're going down, and then the pilot gets on the air, and you see the flight attendants scrambling. They're scrambling around, and when they start to scramble, that's when you start to worry, because if they're not worried, then you don't worry either. So
Right.
apparently we lost cabin pressure. Um, the mast didn't come down because apparently the pilot had the foresight to go down below the level where we're going to need the uh, the
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 mask.
mast for oxygen.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we land in Midland, Texas, and I don't know if you've been to Midland, right? You've done a
Yes, I
couple
have.
trips
There's
up
nothing
there.
there. There's nothing there.
Not the
Oil.
biggest airport in the world. Not the biggest airport in the world.
Right.
So we get
Oil
there,
and
we
gas. Oil
land.
and gas.
Yeah,
That's it.
we land about 5:45 in the afternoon, and they're already closing down all the restaurants. They're closing down all the food.
Right.
So they're going to have to send a rescue plane. That's what they called it, a rescue plane, to get us back home to Houston, because the plane that we had obviously, wasn't working properly. You kind of need
Right.
oxygen at 30,000 feet to survive.
Right.
So they keep pushing it back. They're pushing it back. We're supposed to fly out at 10, and this is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, mind you. So it's 10 o'clock. Then it becomes 11 o'clock. I end up I
Man.
end up walking into my door at the house 4 o'clock in the morning, Diamante.
You
I
could
was
have
supposed to be here.
probably
I could
rented a
have
car
probably,
and
yeah.
drove by. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but, so yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning. So those of you guys who say, "Oh, you guys get to travel, you lead such an exciting life, so much fun," you guys can kiss my nalgas, because you guys don't know
There you go.
what really happens when it goes
That,
bad.
and
It
that's
goes
called,
bad.
you know what that's called? Hard work dedication, Lupina. Hard work
That's called
dedication.
hard
That's
work and
what we do.
dedication.
Sure.
That is the reason why we were talking about this with some guys there while we were BSing at the casino.
Yeah.
The people that have success in boxing are people that kind of boxing chose them, as opposed to them choosing boxing. Because you come into it, like I myself, when I got hired by Top Rank, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
I was just like, okay, everything they told me, I just accepted it. That's what it
Yeah.
was. That's
You
how you
just did
handle
it.
it. That's how you go. You were just there. You were just lucky to be
Yeah.
there. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think people that come into it with these expectations, thinking that it's going to be, more glamorous than it truly is. It's going to be all, uh, fancy dinners and, paparazzi and all this stuff. Those people are the ones that
Right.
get disappointed very quickly when they see how difficult it really can be, and they get
I
weeded out
agree.
pretty quickly.
You're
They get
right.
weeded out pretty quickly. But anyway, we're the troopers. We're still here. We're still making it. If you haven't subscribed quite yet, make sure you do so.
Por
At Punchy
favor,
Show. Yeah,
please.
por favor, because it's getting pretty pathetic
It's
here. It's
sad,
getting
bro. It's
it's
sad.
getting it's beyond sad. It's pathetic, Diamante. It's pathetic. But
But
we
we
do
don't give
appreciate
up.
the
We
ones
don't
who
give
have
up.
subscribed, but don't keep it to
Persistency.
yourself. Everywhere that we've gone, someone has talked to us about the show.
Yeah.
They've said they've enjoyed the show. They're not subscribing for some reason. I don't know if they want to keep it on the down low or whatever it might be. But subscribe at Punchy Show, one word, on both Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. But so we thank you if you've done so. The few and the proud, los pocos pero locos, that have been part of our subscription. We thank you so much. And we move on now. For the reason that you're here. You're here for boxing coverage. And this is the top story that we have. We like to call it the main events. And there can only be one main event, Diamante. The news finally broke. You called it.
Yeah.
You said it was going to happen. You said Canelo versus Crawford. If Dana said it's taking place in Vegas, if Dana said it's going to be on Netflix, if Dana said that this is going to come to fruition, you can almost guarantee that it's going to happen. And that's exactly what went on. What were your thoughts when you saw the news finally break sometime in the middle of last week?
Well, I thought that hey, everybody's been waiting for this this fight, and like you said, not until it comes out of Dana's mouth, then that's when you have to know that it's really coming, and it's hey, it's exciting, Lupina. I remember when not too long ago it was the fight of the century was Canelo against Mayweather, and it was also called the one. So man, it's I'm excited about this. It's gonna be on Netflix. It's gonna be on Vegas in Vegas, at the big stadium, the what is it? This he says it's September weekend. It's also always a big event, for the Mexican Americans. It's going to be a great weekend for all the boxing fans, and even for people that are not boxing fans, that can get introduced to boxing because it's a big platform. Netflix. It's going to be for free, Lupin, on Netflix. I mean, whatever you pay for Netflix a month, but it's not going to be on pay-per-view. You're talking about the fight of the century, a big fight that people have been waiting for, and it's not going to be on pay-per-view. That's something that's very different.
I mean, it takes you back pretty much as the equivalent. I remember one of my earliest memories as a kid was
Yeah.
watching Muhammad Ali versus Leon Spinks on ABC,
Yeah.
which was free. It was free television, and anyone, granted there were very few choices back then, but anyone that was watching television was watching that. The one thing that they haven't confirmed, they have not confirmed that it's going to be taking place at the Legion Stadium. Obviously, that's where it's going to be.
Oh,
That's what has to happen.
yeah.
UNLV is playing a football game, but UNLV is a state school. Uh, Everyone there with the with the Nevada Commission has a lot of influence, a lot of pull. You got Dana, you got Turkey.
If it makes dollars, it makes sense, baby.
Yeah, they're going to move it. They're going to
Yeah.
move it. They're either going to move it to another location. There is a football stadium there on the UNLV campus where they could play it, or maybe they just postpone it, to a further week or just change the schedule. How big of a fight do you think it's going to be? Obviously, Netflix had some great numbers with Tyson versus Jake Paul, but that's a kind of a different little animal there because that was more of a pop culture type of event. This is more of a boxing type of scenario. Do you think it's going to make bigger numbers or lesser numbers, or how do you think that's going to play out?
I think it's gonna make bigger numbers, man. It's the biggest fight in boxing that could be made right now. That's people have been asking for that fight. And I think that Crawford taking the risk, of moving up 2 weight classes, that makes it even more exciting. A lot of people, don't think Crawford has a chance because Canelo, he's the natural guy that's been there at 168 for many fights. He is supposedly the bigger, stronger guy, so that makes it entertaining. People want to see that fight, and it's gonna be. I think it's worldwide, man. It's just not like here in the United States. I think boxing people all over the world want to see that fight, and they're going to be tuned in.
A lot has been made of the size difference. And I mean, we've both been around both fighters.
Yes.
Canelo is not particularly tall, but he's a very thick, very, very muscular, girthy type of guy.
Yeah,
Crawford is not a small dude either.
he's
He's a
not.
guy that drops down in weight to be at the weight class that he is. But when you see him walking around, he's taller
By the
than
way,
Canelo.
he's half an inch taller than Canelo, and
He's more than that. He's more than half an inch taller.
well, yeah, it looks like he is, but
Yeah.
I mean, according to what I read, he's supposedly half an inch taller than Canelo, and 3.5 inch reach advantage, Lupina. He's got long arms. He's got long arms, so that's that I think that's the key right there. The reach. If he's able to control the range, if he's able to control the distance, um, that's gonna change things, I believe.
You're mentioning some of the keys to victory. Obviously,
Yeah,
you know, I mentioned to you a while back. I said I think that Crawford has a really good chance against Canelo. And
I
at
think
first,
so.
you thought it was a little bit on the crazy side. You're
Right.
starting to see a lot of people, after the performance that they saw, with Canelo in Saudi Arabia against
Yes.
William School. Uh, some people say that there's been a bit of a decline in Canelo's skill. I don't know if it's skill or just desire, to be in the ring against the opposition that he's been facing.
Right.
But so the movement is going to be key. I think Crawford is faster than Canelo.
Yeah.
He has probably a few more tools to work with. What does we all know what Crawford has to do? Crawford has to move
Yeah.
around. Crawford has to,
Mhm.
stay on the outside, be strategic with his shots. How different is this going to be from what we saw from Canelo against Mayweather, which obviously was over a decade ago? He has improved. He has learned a lot. He has matured as a
Absolutely. Yeah.
fighter and as a technician. But what does he have to do to be successful against somebody like Crawford?
Well, if in saying like if Canelo is naturally the bigger guy, which he's supposed to be because he's been fighting at 168 for a while. He's solid at that weight. He's fought some big guys, so he needs to impose his size on Crawford. He needs to get that respect early on. Try to land some hard shots and let him know, hey, look, you're in here with a bigger, stronger guy, and get that respect. He's got to keep that distance close, and please do not follow Crawford around like he did with William Skull. You know, when he fought Skull, he was literally just following him around. You got to cut that fucking ring off, man. Cut that ring off in half. Make that ring small. You know, pin him on the ropes, pin him on the corners, have a good body attack, and just go to work, man. Of course, you got to be intelligent, intelligent pressure. Canelo knows, intelligent pressure, because when you find a guy that has a high boxing IQ like Crawford, you got to be careful the way you're coming in. You got to set up those combinations with a fast jab. You got to have fast footwork to come in. You can't be flat footed and stuck in sand when you find a guy like Crawford, because he's very elusive. He's a guy that's there and then he's out. He gives you angles. He's going to keep turning you in circles. He's going to try to frustrate you. He's going to try to grab you. He's going to try to run the clock. He's got to fight. Canelo's got to fight a very intelligent fight. But at the end of the day, he's the one that has to put the pressure. He's the one that's got to push him back and use his size advantage and use his power. And hopefully that works. That's the key. That's what he has to do to win.
Obviously, how much of slowing down Crawford's movement is going to depend on whether Canelo attacks the body or not. Is that going to be one of the key factors? And also, we both know that, when you attack the body, it almost requires a lot more commitment from you. It's more of a full body type of commitment to attack,
right,
the body of your opponent. Do you think conditioning is going to be an issue when if he has to start early, he has to attack the body, invest a lot into the body work?
Yeah.
How much of the size and the fatigue, rather than being an advantage for Canelo, could be a bit of a disadvantage facing a smaller, faster fighter?
Well, yeah, because we've always said, or we've seen in the past, that Canelo kind of likes, in the later rounds, in the second half of the fight, he kind of fades a little bit. He gets tired, But for this fight, he can't afford to fade with a guy like Crawford, because I think in the second half of the fight, Crawford's going to bring it more. He's going to try to wear him down and make him miss and pay in the early part of the fight. But I think in the second half of the fight, Crawford's going to bring it. So that's why Canelo has to be in really good shape, and early on, like I said, he's got to have a good body attack. Hit him on the body, hit him on the arms, looping. Also the arms, he's got to stop that mobility, that quickness that Crawford has. Can he do that? I don't know, but he's got to try to get him tired in some kind of way. He can't just let Crawford, fight at his pace, be smooth and be elusive. He's got to make him fight. He's got to keep his heart rate up. He's got to make him stress. He's got to make him, oh shit, what am I going to do now? He's got to put him in situations that Crawford probably has never been in, with a guy like Canelo, So it's very important that he's in the best shape of his life, the best ever, better than any fight in the past, because he's going to need that conditioning all the way through the fight, not just in the first half of the fight, but also in the second half of the fight, to be able to maintain that rhythm and that constant pressure, just always on him and keeping that distance close. He cannot give Crawford too much distance, because if he does, he's going to be in some big problems, man.
I was sitting next to Shakur Stevenson at one of the Red Owl shows that he was invited to, and we were discussing the fight. And he made what I thought was a very bold statement. Obviously, he's friends with Crawford,
Yeah.
They're buddies. He's going to support his friend. But he said, he goes, I think Crawford can stop Canelo late. And I thought that was a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a big stretch. What do you think is the most likely outcome for this fight?
I don't think that he could stop. I don't think Crawford, if anybody's going to get stopped, it would be Crawford by Canelo. But I don't even think that's going to happen. But I think that Crawford, in the second half of the fight, he finds his way. He's always going to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of Canelo. And I believe that, maybe around 8, 9, 10, or 9, 10, 11, 12, he's going to just be tattooing Canelo with his fast, explosive combinations coming from different angles, just fighting at his pace, controlling the distance, controlling the pace of the fight, and really just, like I said, tattooing Canelo with some hard, fast, explosive combinations and win a close, unanimous decision.
That is coming up September 13th, somewhere in Las Vegas, most likely Allegiant Stadium. For fights that actually happened this weekend, Richardson Hitchins looked pretty much flawless this weekend when he outclassed George Kambosos Jr. What were your thoughts on that fight? I mean, Hitchins was a guy who had a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a stinker, who
Yeah, I
was willing
agree.
to just jab his way to a
And
victory.
run and
He
move and
and run, move. A great boxer, very skillful, very
yes.
he moved very well, was able to avoid shots. He looked like a very different fighter this past Saturday night. He went in there and he really put it to George Kambosos Jr.
Yeah, you know what? I actually saw the fight, and I'm a fan of Hitchens. I follow him. Giovanni had the chance to spar him a couple of years back up in New York at one of my friends' gyms, Dago Mederos. So we sparred him, and he was good work. But yeah, man, I tell you what, he really impressed me in his last fight because he's showing that he's maturing. He's showing that he's learning and he wants to get better. He's hungry. The guy's hungry. He wants big paydays. He wants to make the big money. He wants to be a star. And he's got that big confidence. He's got that attitude. You either like him or you don't. A lot of people would want to watch him because they don't like him. They want to see him get beat. And then he's got these fans that like him. But what I liked about him was Lupina because he's always been a guy that he runs a little bit too much. He's a boxer first, but he was outboxing Kambosos. But at the same time, he was sitting down on his shots and he put hurt on his punches. He put power on his shots. You can see where he's really turning them. He knocked out Kambosos with a body shot, and Kambosos, he's tough. He's a tough guy. He's been there with some good fighters, got experience, and that's what impressed me about Hitchens, that he was willing to trade and sit on his punches and make it more of an action fight. And like I said, I was very impressed with him that night.
He stopped him with a body shot. He retained
Yeah,
his IBF Jr welterweight championship in the 8th round. He goes to 20-0 with 8 KOs. Like you said, not a guy that was known for his stopping power,
right.
but he really committed to those body shots. He really gave
Mhm.
Kambosos fits. I mean, there really wasn't much that Kambosos could do. How Speaking of Kambosos, he's obviously a guy who and I don't mean this as a diss. He has done a lot with very limited ability. How
Right.
much of that do you think was a factor in the fact that allowed Hitchens to
A lot of
let
it.
loose a little bit more than he
Yeah.
normally would?
A lot of it. And look, I mean, let's be honest. Like, I don't want to rain on Hitchens' parade. I mean, I mean, he did great. He did what he had to do. He's been proven. He showed power. All that. That's great. But let's be realistic. Cambosa's, 4 years ago that was his big win when he beat Teofimo Lopez. That was his big win. He beat Lopez. He upset him, and off of that, he was able to make a lot of money and a bigger name. But he took some losses. After that, he lost back to back against Devin Haney, but losing by decision. He also lost. He got stopped in 11 rounds by Lomachenko, and then in between, I believe he had two other fights, and then he fought Richardson Hitchins. I mean, did he? Was he? Is he? What's the word I'm looking for? Is he worn out? I mean,
Elite, elite.
is he? Say it again.
Is he elite?
Is he elite? No. Is he elite? No. I mean, he's not elite, but he's still a guy that was a champion. He fought big names like Devin Haney, Lomachenko, and Hitchens did what he was supposed to do with a guy like that, and it's good for Hitchens' confidence and for him to move on in his career. I look at it that way.
I'm glad you brought up the record of George Kambosos. The
Yeah,
first time I ran across George Kambosos was I did his fight. He was the very first fight at Madison Square Garden. He was fighting Mickey Bay.
Mickey Bay.
I
Yeah,
believe it was the Crawford Kabalowskis fight in Madison Square Garden.
right.
I didn't know about him. I had never heard about him. Obviously, he was a guy from Australia. I thought he had very respectable skills. Nothing really stood out about him. But as you mentioned, his record, he meets Mickey Bay by split decision, gets another split decision against Lee Selby. Then he has basically the night of his career when he beats Teofimo Lopez, and then he
Right.
goes on to lose 3 out of 5 against
Yeah.
what would be elite opposition. You've got Devin Haney. He loses to him twice. He beats Maxie Hughes, which is he's a British contender by way of majority decision. He gets stopped by Lomachenko. He gets a get right fight against a guy by the name of Jack Wiley, and then he gets stopped by Richardson Hitchins. And again, I go back to the fact that I don't mean this in a negative way. I think he's a guy that he came into the sport with the best. He did the absolute best he could do with the skills that he had, but he was an absolute winner when it came to the business side of it. I mean, he essentially had one great night in boxing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say he's probably made more money than some of the top contenders of his era just by that
I
one
think
great
so.
night that he had in New York.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, when he won the big fight with Teo Lopez, he took advantage of that. I mean, even though he lost against Haney, but I'm sure he made good money against Haney, losing twice to Haney. And then he had some in between fights. Then he fought Lomachenko. He probably made some good money there. And I'm sure in his last fight with Hitchins, he probably collected a good paycheck. So, he's a good businessman. At the end of the day, in boxing, man, yes, you want to win titles, you want to be big and all that, but you also want to get paid. You want to make money. I look at it that way.
Back to the winner of the fight, Richardson Hitchins. After the fight, he not only called out Devin Haney, but he pretty much, cussed him out as well
Yeah.
on the mic. It was something that there was a lot of tension going on. Obviously, Bill Haney likes to insert himself in a lot of things. He's very strategic in the way he does things. He
Yeah.
wants that media attention. He wants to keep his son always at the forefront of
He
of the
does a
news.
really good job of it too, man. I
He
mean,
does. He does a fantastic job. He's another guy that you said you either like him, he
or you
annoys you,
don't.
but you know,
Yeah,
or you know who Bill Haney is.
I
Uh,
know. Yeah.
how would you see that matchup? How would you see that going? It's a fight with they have very similar styles, so it's a fight that you know either has
It could be a chess match. It could be
tactical
a
chess
fencing.
match or a total stinker too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it could be like a fencing match. Like the fencing in the Olympics. But being the way Hitchens looked in his last fight, where he's willing to trade more and go toe to toe and sit down more on his shots. I think he's got a really good chance. Because I think that Devin Haney, he's a little bit gun shy, man. Like he runs a little bit too much. He holds a little bit too much. Ever since he got that beating when he fought Ryan Garcia, I don't think he's ever been the same. Or he runs more. He doesn't want to engage as much. He's gonna hold you. Any little shot, he holds. He throws three punches and he holds. So if Hitchens makes him fight and he stands there more on him and hits the body like he was hitting the body the other night with Kambosos, I think Richardson Hitchens got a good chance to beat him, Lupe.
After the fight, obviously he went after Devin Haney, and Hitchens also made some statements that really rubbed his promoter Eddie Hearn the wrong way. He went out there and declared himself a free agent. Whether he is a free agent or not, I'm
Nah,
not quite sure. That was still kind of unclear. But what Eddie Hearn did say was the fact that he said when we brought on Richardson Hitchins, we've lost money on him. We've lost money on the things that we've invested in him. He said there's no loyalty in boxing. He made some comment to the effect of when I met Richardson Hitchins, the doors were falling off of his car, and we've made him a lot of money, and he's got people in his ear talking about you should do this, declare yourself a free agent. Clarify some of those relationships for me. Obviously, you were a guy in boxing. You never really had a manager yourself. You kind of, manage yourself, but you got so many figures in boxing. You've got promoters, there's managers, there's guys that call themselves advisors. Clarify some of those roles so people can understand who's who does what, and how it can get so convoluted after all when there's so many people in your ear that
yeah,
even
that's
for
the
me, who
problem.
I've been in the business for 25 years,
Yeah.
I have a hard time distinguishing who's doing what, who's getting what percentage of the pay, who's making the decisions, and it almost seems to be intentionally confusing.
I mean, honestly, for me, like it's like you just said, you got so many ears, so many people get in your ears. It's a matter of like who you let get in your team, Lupina. Like, I mean, you could have an advisor, you could have a manager, you could have your brother, you could have your really good friend. You got so many people coming at you, so that I think everybody uh, picks their own team. Like I think you make it more confusing when you got so many people putting stuff in your ear. Like I think one good advisor, one good manager, that's all you need. You let him control uh, all your negotiations. How much you're going to get paid, your contracts, endorsements, sponsors, whatever, all that stuff. You let one or two people control that. I think the more people you get in there, and the more people get in your ear, because everybody wants a piece of the pie, man. Everybody's gonna want a piece of the pie, and the bigger the bigger the pie is, the more people want to come in, and of course, the more people you bring in, the lesser you as a fighter are gonna make. So I would just keep that, that group to a very small group, that's gonna control your boxing career.
On the undercard of that same show, former Olympic gold medalist, Cuban standout, Andy Cruz. Cruises one step closer to a world title as he gets past a Japanese fighter by the name of Hironori Mishido with a fifth round TKO. Diamante, as I saw this fight, obviously you saw the difference in skill level. You
Oh yeah,
saw, the technical skills of Andy Cruz. I really couldn't gauge too much. I mean, he goes to 6-0 with 3 knockouts. I'll be honest with you. When I was watching the Japanese fighter, he did so many things wrong, man. He could
right.
not get away from those shots. He stood very square. He almost looked like a former kickboxer or a former MMA fighter. The way he stood really square to somebody, especially with that pedigree of a fighter like Andy Cruz. He was just tattooing him. It looked like
Yeah.
target practice for most of the night. What did you see? Could you gauge anything as to where obviously Andy Cruz is on the fast track. With that outstanding Olympic pedigree, the gold medal, spending so many years in the Cuban amateur system. What did you see?
I mean, I think Andy Cruz did what he had to do with a fighter like that. I mean, what was his name? Mishiri. He was game. I mean, he was tough, but he just got outclassed, and he got stopped. Actually, he got stopped for the first time. So you got to give Andy Cruz that because he hadn't got stopped before. So that was the first time he got stopped. But it was a good win. It was a good. I want to call it a sparring session for Andy Cruz, a guy that, how you said, a big amateur pedigree, Olympic gold medalist. He was a two-time gold medalist in the Pan American Games. He stayed in the amateurs for a while, for a long time. So he's 29 years old. So they're on a fast track with him. I mean, when he turned pro, he fought a 10-round fight. He's only fought 10-round fights. He didn't even start with 4 rounds or 6 rounds or 8 rounds. He went straight to the 10-rounders. But let's be honest, he's been very carefully matched. They've matched him with the right guys because they don't want to take really big risks on him because he don't have a lot of fights, but they're moving him right. Now he's a mandatory uh to Muratayev, right? But I believe Muratayev, and I think if he fights Muratayev, that's a different level of fighter, a guy that has beat guys like Tevin Farmer. He's been in there with guys like Abdullayev, who he also beat, another tough Russian guy. Plus, he's trained by Robert Garcia. Those guys, they know what they're doing over there. They got a lot of experience. So that's, if Andy Cruz fights that guy, Muratayev, that's a different level. It's not gonna be not gonna be like the first 6 fights that he's fought. The Muratayev, he's experienced, he's undefeated, he's hungry, and that's a much tougher and a much higher level of fight for Andy Cruz.
Murataya is 23-0, 17 KOs. Obviously, like you said, he's fought a much better level of opposition.
Yeah.
The victory that he had this past Saturday night made him the mandatory for the IBF lightweight world title. That is still, to be determined. Obviously, just because you are the mandatory doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. But it would certainly be a big step up for him. And as we said, he's on the fast track. He's on the fast pace, and we'll see what he's really got once he faces somebody in front of him who has the ability to really give him a real challenge. We move on to the second portion of our program. It is the co-feature, and our boy Diamante Nonito Donaire went down to Argentina, and he got it done. It probably wasn't the way he wanted to get it done. It was a technical decision. There was a head clash. He was fighting the Chilean Andres Campos, and it was a 9th round technical decision. But I was really surprised with how good Nonito looked, man. He's 42 years old.
Yeah,
he did not look bad at all.
No, you're right. I saw some of the clips. I wasn't able to see the fight, but I was watching some of the clips. He looked sharp. He looked fast. He looked mobile. Like his footwork was good. He was landing some hard shots. I mean, but of course, he was in there, probably with the right guy, Lupina, that you know, he was able to show his style and what we've seen in the past of Donaire. But regardless, I mean, he had been out for 2 years. Uh, he had lost to Alejandro Santiago, and then before that, he lost to Inoue. We got knocked out. I mean, for a guy that's 42 years of age, I think he looked pretty good. I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean the guy in Andres Campos, obviously not a world beater, but a respectable guy. He was a
Yeah.
former world title challenger. He went to England and challenged Sonny Edwards,
Mhm.
who up until he ran into Bam Rodriguez, he was considered one of the top guys in that particular division.
Yeah.
He picks up the interim WBA bantamweight title there in Argentina. What do you think are some of the possibilities that are still out there for Nonito? I mean, like as we said, he is 42. He did mention in some post-fight interviews that this wasn't a one-off, that he plans to make another run at the title. When you start getting into these later ages, when you start getting into your early 40s, it starts to get iffy, man. It's something where even though you look great one night, the next night, because the next night
And
isn't
I
going to
be the
come for maybe
same.
about 6-7 months, it could really, really look very differently. What do you think?
I think he needs to wait it out. I mean, first of all, he needs to let that cut heal. Obviously, that's the bad thing that he cut. And being that he's making a comeback, and another comeback at age 42, and then you get a cut, you got to make sure it heals right, because, like you said, that one fight that you take, he might not look that good. So if I was him, since he won that WBA interim title or whatever it's called, and I think he's possibly the mandatory, from what I read, for the champion, who's Antonio Vargas, I would wait for that fight and try to get a shot at him, Lupe.
Another guy that came into the bantamweight division this particular weekend, El Gallo Estrada. He fought
Another.
in Hermosillo, Mexico, two-time champion at super flyweight as well as flyweight. He fought Karim Arce, who is the nephew of El Travieso
Okay.
Arce.
Yeah.
Porque, yeah, he's and Karim Arce, a respectable fighter. He kind of more of on the regional scene. Let's be honest. He made a name for himself because of that last name as Arce. Not
Actually,
not a
yeah.
world beater. Um, if you got a chance to look at the fight, it was really hard to gauge where Gallo Estrada stands at this point, just because of the fact of the level of opposition he was fighting. It was almost similar to like the Andy Cruz situation. He had a guy in front of him who with limited skills,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say that Gallo carried him a little bit, but it seemed that he could have ended the fight a lot sooner if he had chosen to really step on the gas.
Well, he had him down like 3 times, and I think maybe he just wanted to get the rounds in. He did move up. From El Gallo Estrada was a certified at 118 pounds, and I'd say moved up for the opportunity. He was a smaller man. He moved up from 115 to 118. It was one of those fights, like you said. He had been inactive too. He hadn't fought in about a year. It was a good introduction for him into the bantamweight division, and I mean, at age 35, he's got to make something happen here. So if he gets up an opportunity at any of the world champions, that would be good. I think a fight that would, because they're both have names, Lupina. He's like 2-1 against Chocolatito, the from Nicaragua. That would be a good fight. Him and Chocolatito at 118 pounds. It's two named fighters. Why not?
Let me throw something at you. We just saw a
Okay.
guy who won the WBA interim bantamweight title in Nonito Donaire.
Nonito, yeah.
What about Nonito against Estrada? Two guys that are
Two
on
big
on
names.
the other side of the rainbow. It could be a nice supporting fight for who knows. It could end up on one of the cards. But so he's in the bantamweight game as well. Nonito's in the bantamweight game as well. So hopefully something happens on that. And now we move on to what is my little playground of our podcast, the place
That's where
where
you
I
scared me,
may
man. That's where you scared me. I don't know what you're gonna
you
come up with.
should be scared. You should be
Oh
scared. The
my god.
undercard, the place where I dwelled for so many years. Now, Diamante, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but June is Men's Health Month. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Okay, it's Men's Health Month, and I know you've been struggling with a little condition as well. Let me give you an update on Maxie's hole. We went to the vet this morning. He got his stitches out. Maxie's doing fantastic. He's almost completely healed up. Now, your
Nice.
hole has been a little bit different. It's been a little bit more, I guess,
Taking a
stubborn
little bit
as far
longer
as,
to
as far as
heal.
recovering. What is the status of your hole right now?
Well, it's taking a little bit longer to heal, but I'm doing great. I got the stitches on. Hopefully, they'll come out here on Wednesday. I'm gonna go see the doctor, and hopefully, he'll get them out. But yeah, it's on its way, man. The healing process has sped up, and I feel a lot better. I feel really good about it. It was a distraction for a while, man. I was, it would make me in a bad mood. I was pissed off, but I feel really good about it now, Lupe.
One thing that we do, and it being Men's Health Month, obviously, we're both Mexicans. Mexicans have this reputation for never going to the doctor.
Right.
We may go to the yerberia, which if you're not familiar with the yerberia, it's kind of like a Mexican GNC where you go there, you can buy all these crazy herbs. It's kind of like a holistic way of
Right.
treating yourself. You might even be able to hire a bruja, a witch, to do like a spell and make you feel better if you go to the brujeria. So I come up with this segment. You know how people go on the internet and they go to WebMD and they kind of
Yes.
Google their symptoms to see if maybe something's wrong, maybe if they're sick. I'm going to call this segment MEX MD, MEX, like Mexicans MD. And the way it's going to work, how it's going to work, you and I have been doing this for years, where we call one another if we're having a certain issue. We'll say,
Right.
"Hey, man, I've got this going on, and if you have it and I have it, then we think it's regular, so we don't even bother going to the
Yeah,
doctor. So we have
it's true.
nothing to worry about." So what
Right.
I've done is I found some questions that people had on the internet about some of the issues that men around our age were having going on with their bodies as well. Some of them are embarrassing, some of them are fairly common, but they're all legitimate. So this is all
You're
for medical
sick, man.
purposes. This is all for medical purposes. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put them into three categories. I'm going to read their question. If you have it and I have had it, we're going to categorize it as no pasa nada. Nothing's happened.
Okay.
It's normal. It's happening to guys about our age. As you can see, the skeletons are on screen. They're not too concerned. They're just kind of goofing off. If maybe one of us has had it, but the other one is not quite sure, we're gonna call it quien sabe. Like, who knows, man?
Yeah.
Who knows that there may be something wrong with you? There may not be anything wrong with you. As you can see, the two skeletons on screen, they're not the healthiest of eaters. One, I think, is eating flaming hot Cheetos. The other one's just guzzing down Pepsis. So if you've been leading that type of lifestyle, more likely, you might want to go get it checked out. And
All
the
right.
final category, if we've never heard of it and we just think, man, that's the strangest thing ever, this category is the most dangerous one. We're going to call this one Ya valió.
How about
Yeah,
your
you're
bird?
screwed. You're
Oh,
screwed.
shit.
As you can see,
That's it.
the skeletons are waving
Say
by.
bye.
Get your affairs in order.
Salud.
Yeah, make sure you get yourself taken care of because more than likely something is wrong. Again, we are not medical professionals. We do have some college education. Raul was in the Vanguard program. I was in the Vanguard program, but we do not have any medical background to substantiate our diagnoses here. But the good news is there is no copay. This is absolutely free, unsolicited medical advice. So let's go to our first question, Diamante. The first question we have here on the screen, it says, I've noticed the time I realize I have to use the bathroom and it becomes a life or death situation is getting shorter
Oh,
and shorter.
oh,
If I'm not mistaken, this sounds like very similar to a story that you told me last week.
yeah. I mean, I was getting checked at the doctor, and I took my medicine. By the way, I took my medicine, and then medicine makes you want to go to the bathroom. They told me that before, but they were checking my hole in the back, and everything was fine. And I was thinking, man, can they hurry up? Because I felt that feeling, Lupina, on my stomach, like, oh shit. I mean, what am I gonna do? I gotta go to the bathroom, and of course, I don't want to go to the bathroom there at their office because I'm not gonna. I mean, come on, bro. I mean, I gotta explode, bro. When I go, I gotta go. So I get in the car, I get in my Jeep, and I rush as fast as I could to the. I saw the Burger King, Lupina, and I run. As a matter of fact, the lady, I told you the story. The lady was cleaning the bathroom. I saw, you know how they put those cones there. Actually, they put the
You
cones
said, and
first.
you
For the,
said you said code brown 911. I got to
no,
get in
I
here
said no.
for you.
I said I didn't even. I said I gotta go to the bathroom. I didn't care what she was doing. I slammed the door. I moved the cone, and I ran. And I opened the door to the toilet. I sat down, bro, and I had to do what I had to do, man. I was in a hurry, man, and I did it. But you're
I
right.
haven't had anything. Yeah,
Go
I've
ahead.
never had anything quite severe like that happen to me of late. But my rule is at this age, if you see a bathroom, you typically do not pass it up. You even if you don't have to go, there's something about being in the bathroom that just kind of inspires you to go. And it's probably better to be safe than sorry. So I think I want to say I've had something similar to this, but not quite as bad. So I'm gonna put this one in the no pasa nada category. Would you agree?
So we're good then. That's
I
normal,
think
right?
we're good. Yeah.
Because that's
If
happened
you're
to you
having
before. It's happened to you
it
before.
close, not quite as severe as what you described,
Okay.
but it definitely was somewhere around that. Let's go to our next question here. It says it's getting really difficult for me to see at night while driving. How about y'all? I'm gonna say yes. I
I
um
agree.
I but I'm kind of it's kind of hard for me to really gauge it because I've had eye problems ever since I was a kid. You've seen some of my
Well, you,
pictures, right?
I mean, you're cross-eyed already. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like look, if I get close, if I try to focus on the screen, I'm not doing that on purpose. The eye goes in.
Should have put your
I've
little
had
boy.
glasses.
Should have put your little boy picture up so people could see
Oh
that.
no, that one's bad. That was bad. So even as a kid, I would wear glasses, but one lens was bigger than the other, so it was
Yeah,
like it looked like a magnifying glass. So the eye would go in, and it was just hideous. There's a picture that my mom even has, one of those school pictures
that's why
where
you couldn't
it was
spell.
like
You couldn't spell.
I couldn't spell back then. So it was like there's like a regular picture, and then they had like the severed head pictures. It's a very 80s picture. And so the regular picture I'm fine. But in the severed picture, it's like my head just floating there and the eyes all crooked. But anyhow, back to the question. I have noticed this, Diamante. I have noticed that I've been having some trouble seeing at night. I have to concentrate a little bit more. I can't be as willy-nilly as I once was. What
Right.
has your experience been like?
I still think I'm good, man. I got pretty good vision, whether it's nighttime or daytime. I can't recall of any bad experience that I've had. I think I'm not, and I'm not cross-eyed like you, so that I think that helps a lot.
But you've also you're supposed to wear contact lenses, but you don't do it.
I'm supposed to, more for when I read. Like what is it called? Like I
Yeah,
have
'cause-
to, I have to, I have to. I could see like this, but when I put the book right here in front of me, it's hard for me to see. I see better
if
the from
I
far
wish
away.
you could show the level that you have your phone on. Your phone, it's like one word on the screen. It's like magnified to the largest level of magnification, but yet you can see fine.
Well, the
Yet
reason
you claim you're
there's a
okay.
reason why I have those letters
Why?
big like
Why is
that
that?
because when I'm driving, I mean, I want to make sure I get to see it right. I don't want to be squinting since I'm driving. I mean, obviously, you're not supposed to be driving and texting, but I do it sometimes, which is not right. My wife always tells me, my dad always tells me, you need to stop doing that. And also, say you had some, adult beverages, and you feel a little bit
Oh, so now
tipsy.
you're drinking and driving and reading the and you're reading. Yeah.
I just want to
Let's
make sure
stop
I
where
get
we're
I
ahead.
see it right. You know what I mean? I want
Okay.
to get an advantage of the letters are bigger. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Quien Sabe on this one. Like who
Okay.
knows?
This. Yeah.
Because I don't think we are the best examples of what is proper vision and also what is proper driving habits for damn sure on your side.
You're
So
right about that.
yeah, the reason I don't read mine is don't you have CarPlay, like where the CarPlay like reads the messages out loud to you,
I
or
do,
you're
man.
a
I
little bit
have all that. You know what? Well, that's my wife tells me. You got this vehicle that does all this stuff, and for what? You don't even use it.
Oh, okay. Let's move on to our next question. This one might be a good one. Oh, it says my farts are getting increasingly unpredictable. How about you guys? And I know that this has been an issue for you, Diamante. You've been a guy that not only are
I'm not
you
embarrassed.
proud of your farts, but you and your kid have something called fart wars. Is that
Me and
correct?
Liam have fart wars. Yeah, we have fart wars. It's. I mean, I have little ones, Lupina, so I got to make it fun for them. So yeah, I mean, everybody farts, bro. Come on. So me and Liam had fart wars, and we have fun, and Alina and Jeanette, they hate it. They hate it when we have fart wars. But for us, it's fun. We're boys. I mean, come on, bro.
I'm gonna have to say that this is normal. I think after a certain age, the human body is kind of like like in a car where the car has like gaskets and seals that they just start leaking after a while and they need to be replaced. I think
Right.
that's what's kind of happening back there. Like the seal
You need
just
a
isn't
you
quite as
need you need a new gasket, Lupina.
you need a new gasket. I think you need a new gasket, and it is very unpredictable. You can't be willy nilly like you once thought you could. Like back in your teenage years, you knew the difference between what was just going to be a little bit of gas and what might get you in trouble, that is completely unclear now. Like you are taking a chance. You'd better not play any games back there, because that gasket is loose, and it's certainly something that you have to be very conscious of. Let me put it to you this way: light colored pants and light color underwear is a thing of the past. At a certain age, you can no longer mess with that anymore. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, why? Just to be on the safe side, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Pero
Just
no, no
we're gonna
pasa
put
nada.
no pasa nada. I think
No
that's pretty
pasa nada.
normal. I think if
Yeah,
you're
it
having
is.
those issues, I think everyone is going through it. This is by far my favorite question of the entire one. And like I said, this may sound crude. It may be a little bit embarrassing, but it's all meant as a public service. We want to make sure that men our age know that this stuff is normal. Nothing is happening here. I can see the fear in your face right now, Diamante, because you don't know what this question is going
I
to
don't
be.
know. I don't even know if I'm gonna answer, man. I mean, shit.
Here's the question. The question says, I am güero. If you don't know what güero means, like you're fair skinned. But I've noticed that my penis is getting darker and darker with age. I am concerned. Should he be concerned? Is that something that you've noticed? I'll let you go
Nah,
first, but
I
I have a
I no.
very specific answer about this.
Honestly, no, no. I don't see that. I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know where you got that from, but no, I don't. Mine is not like that, Lupina.
I mean, first of all, there's a whole lot of things going on down there. Most of them we don't want to get into. It's not what it once was. You'll admit that, right? Like you could go 12 rounds at a certain point. Now it's
Oh, bro,
light
I just said, nah,
sparring.
man. I could still go 13 rounds, but come
Okay,
on, bro.
this isn't the
I'm in
conversation. You can go 15.
diamante,
You can go
bro.
15 like the 80s. I want to say there's something to this. I think first of all, it's I don't know how women deal with this thing. It's not the most attractive thing to begin with, but I think there is some slight discoloration going on down there. So
Wow.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's from use from there's
It is
you
that
know you know
what's
like
it called? Vitiligo. What is it called?
vitiligo. No, vitiligo,
Yeah.
you lose color. It doesn't get darker, so it would have gotten
Okay. Oh,
brighter.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So man, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
Maybe
if
you're
it's
dirty.
like
Hey, maybe you're dirty, Lupina. Maybe you're dirty. You gotta clean that motherfucker up, man. What the?
or
You're
what
dirty.
is
Hey, you are single. You are single. And how old are you? 50. And you've been
I'm
around, so you
54.
maybe. Hey,
I'm
maybe
54.
you're a little bit
No,
dirty, bro.
here's what I think. I think it's kind of like it's almost like like when something is made out of leather and skin. Like after a while, it just kind
You
of like
stink, bro.
gets darker. I think that's what's happening there. So
I
I
mean,
don't
yeah,
think.
you're getting older. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just getting older. I think this one's gonna have to go into the quien sabe category, because
Can't
obviously
sabe, yeah. I
you're
think
saying yours is shiny and new, like the day
like
you
a
were
diamond,
born.
shine like a diamond, baby.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you. First of all, like I said, it wasn't attractive to begin with. Um, Obviously, there's been some wear and tear. The warranty has definitely
Obviously,
run out on it. The warranty has definitely run
wear
out
and
on it.
tear. You
Wear
gonna
and
say your
tear. So
body?
I'm thinking
Like you gonna say
it's
your
just
body count now, or what? You gonna say your body count,
no,
or
no.
what?
I'm just saying wear and
Oh,
tear.
okay, okay,
It's
okay,
just
okay.
it could
I
it could
got
have been
confused,
it
man.
could have been it could have been abuse at my own of my own doing. But anyway, so that does conclude what we call MEX MD. Again, it is a public service. We do not have any medical backgrounds. We've barely completed high school. Some of us have a little bit of college education, but again, if you are having medical problems, do not take our advice. Consult a physician. But the good part about it is there is no copay. What's going on with you this week, Diamante? Are you disappearing anywhere this week?
Actually,
You're going to Jersey, aren't you?
I'm going to New Jersey. I got a show I got to cover. Vito Malnicki Jr. will be fighting. He's fighting I'm not even going to pronounce his name. He's a Polish guy, but he's going to be fighting in his hometown, the Prudential Center. I'll be working with Christina Poncher and Paulie Malignaggi on
Oh,
ESPN
wow.
Plus, I believe. So I'm excited about that show, man.
An ESPN Showbox collab there.
ESPN,
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I'm excited about that, and then I'll fly in Sunday morning early. Liam was hopefully, they're still in the tournament. They got the regional tournament in Center, Texas, looking about 2.5 hours from here. So I'm excited about that.
You know why they call it Center, Texas, by the way?
I have no idea.
It's at the center point between Houston and Dallas.
Is it
That's
for
why
real?
it's in.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
for
don't
real.
have.
That's why it's
Oh,
called
okay.
Center, Texas. Everything has a rhyme. Everything has a reason.
Oh, wow.
I will be disappearing to Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm working with a new promotion, big show. These guys are really going all out. It's a company called Destined Champions Promotions. They are doing a show coming up on the 28th in Arkansas. They've got the kickoff press conference. We're going to be out there at Bally's Casino in Shreveport. It's going to be a big kickoff to a whole week of fight week action. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward with these guys. They've been really going all out and really doing the best that they can with it. So this wraps up episode number 8, the Ocho Diamante. This one is going to be the episode that takes us over the edge. As we mentioned, we are the best kept secret in boxing podcasting. Everybody's talking about it. No one is subscribing, but they are talking about it. Please, so if you hear them talking about it,
guys.
Yeah, at Punchy Show, both on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That does conclude it. We will see you next time, and we are